At LSI, we don't just follow trends, we help shape the future. Welcome to Behind the Win, the podcast where we break down the biggest moves in tech, innovation, leadership, and government contracting. Here at LSI, we're bringing you exclusive conversations with the minds behind groundbreaking advancements, disruptive strategies, and industry-defining wins. From retail to tech, defense to government solutions. This is where you get the insights to stay ahead. Let's go behind the win.
Welcome back to Behind the Win, the show where we get real about what it takes to build lasting impact. Today, we're digging into the people side of success because no matter how strong your tech or product is, it all comes down to your team. Joining us is Tina Hazlett, a powerhouse in talent strategy with a passion for humanizing hiring. Tina's approach goes beyond resumes and checkboxes. She helps companies build cultures that attract, grow, and keep top-tier talent, especially in high-stakes sectors like engineering and manufacturing. Let's dive in.
Teen, before we get into recruiting, what's the most non-HR thing about you? Any surprising hobbies or secret talents?
Ooh, I don't know about hobbies or secret talents, but the most non-HR thing about me is I can cuss like a sailor, right? And sometimes my delivery is a little less guarded than HR prefers. I do attempt the guitar, and I would say I'm trying to be a guitar player, but nothing crazy interesting.
Ooh, okay, I love that, the guitar. But I'm going to back up to the HR because I love my CHRO that's here. She's great, people officer. And I always laugh because I was just talking to someone prior that I was like, oh, I kind of have a trucker's mouth. And when I came on, she was like, I always said, you're probably going to get complaints. I don't know. And she's like, no, it's not illegal to swear. And I was like, thank you.
Oh, you're my person. You are my HR person.
Yeah. So you guys are both right at the top. What's one question you wish you could ask candidates during an interview, but probably can't? Not politically correct.
I love this question. So if I'm interviewing for our team at Spectrum, I wish I could ask, what is your crazy and how does it manifest? You know, how we all have a little bit of crazy in us, right? Good, bad, ugly. And how does it manifest? What are your triggers? What does that look like? Like, so for me, the good crazy is I'll get an idea and I become just manic obsessed. I won't sleep. It's all I dream about for, weeks, all the things. But then there's the bad crazy of I don't sleep and, it consumes you. So like, what is your crazy? Like, what can I expect when crazy shows up?
I love that. So tell our listeners and just a little bit about what you do, what Spectrum does, so that they can get an idea in a sense.
Oh, absolutely. So Spectrum is a talent acquisition firm. So we match engineering and manufacturing professional level talent to aerospace, defense, and energy companies across the country. Amazing. We're matchmakers.
I love that. And in Utah, it's thriving with aerospace and defense. And I would say a lot of the conferences that I've been to lately, too, say that, these jobs you're talking about are, if we don't do something about it, that by 2032 or something crazy, it's like 60% of that workforce
is gone. Yeah. And it's one reason not to be so terrified of AI and the tool that, it can provide to some of these companies.
Yeah. What was your first job and what did it teach you about people?
My first job, I was a cashier at Sutherland's Lumber. Okay. It's like a Home Depot.
Yep.
And I did it for 3 years in high school. And what it taught me is you have to learn to engage with all types of people, right? Those that you connect with and those that you definitely don't. But it also built this curiosity of, well, what are you building right now? What's your project? What are you doing? Why are you here? And so I think that was just natural for me to move into recruiting, but I didn't know that until many years later. Looking hindsight, I was like, oh, I need to start recruiting cashiers for our teams because naturally they're going to, good cashiers, right?
Yeah.
Friendly cashiers, because they have that ability to connect and build relationships and talk to different individuals differently.
What's funny is your guys' same qualities that are great and that make you great in HR are like the salesman. Those are great, the types of attributes that salesmen have too, right? They're curious. They want to get to know the client or the customer.
Yeah, that's a great point. Any business development professional, start recruiting cashiers, people.
That's great. You said that culture and values matter just as much, if not more, than credentials. So how do you bring that mindset into this hiring process?
We always like to play the long game. Recruiting, you would think we like high turnover, but we really don't. We want candidates to stay and build careers and have a great experience working with us. So culture really taps into that. And I think we're going to get into this a little bit more, I'm sure. But playing the long game, you need a really good culture to sustain it, and you can train on most skills.
So culture, we've talked about this a lot lately with different guests on here. And so I think when I came over to LSI 4 years ago, one of the things that the owner at the time, right, he was like, I want to build this culture. And I kept thinking, like, it's hard, right? It's this dichotomy of like, do you build the culture or does that culture build itself? And that, and you, I don't know. I guess what's your take on that is that when you're coming in somewhere, does that person help build that? Or has it already built it and you've got to try to tweak it and manipulate it? You know what I mean? Or what does that look like?
I think companies already have a culture built in, whether it was intentional or not.
Yep.
And it is really hard to change because it starts really from the top down. So I don't know you couldn't change a culture to fit a candidate by any means, but you can shift cultures. But I also think that's one thing that's going to be more maybe focused on in the future of, we're tired of hearing the word culture, and I get that as well. So I don't know if there'll be
another. It gets like the buzzword sometimes, like agile, buzzword. AI, yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it is the one thing that we can't change. So companies can mimic or even duplicate products sometimes in processes, but your culture really can't be mirrored anywhere else because it is so tied to your people that I think we're going to see companies investing a lot more in that, whether they call it culture or not. But that is something that is very unique to a company, and it's important for them to know what that is so they can attract the right talent for them.
And when you're recruiting candidates, when they ask, besides the first one that comes to my mind, right, is they're like, how's the work-life balance? Like, what else are they worried about with culture?
They're wanting to know if there's a social mission, oftentimes, if there's something more to it and what it's tied to.
And I think that's going to just keep becoming more prevalent, right, in this
I think so, too. Well, I think so, too. And because the next generation, and it's even giving, every generation permission to stick to companies that are a fit for them and their social missions as well. And so that's going to help them retain. But I don't see that going away anytime soon. But it will isolate your candidate pool in a very good way because you're going to attract the right people, again, for you versus just casting that wide net.
Interesting. What does people first hiring actually look like when someone puts it into practice? And can you give us a real world example?
Yeah. I mean, it's just what it says is you're putting people first. I think AI is a fabulous tool, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of different AI tools, but you need that human connection still 100%. People that are really good hiring managers have never forgotten what it's like to find a job, right? Especially if you're out of work. It's a very vulnerable spot, and it really messes with people's mental health. So you have to remember how hard it is to find work, and especially in this climate right now, it's not super easy. So if we can just keep a pulse on the empathy, card, and hiring managers communicating to candidates, even if they didn't get the job, right? So I think there's two important things. Closure in general. If you don't get the job, Brene Brown always says, clear is kind, right? I love clear is kind because It's just, sometimes it's hard to say, but they need to know. And if you can give feedback that guides them, that's even better. But even ghosting, I mean, we hear that term all the time too. It's just becoming almost the norm and acceptable, which is really disgusting. It's not hard to respond to candidates once a week and just say, hey, we don't have an update, haven't forgotten about you.
Right.
Just something that they're not going to go off on this tangent and create their own stories and I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, all the things. And that's not the situation. Maybe somebody's on vacation. So I think it's just, remembering that there's a human on the other side of that application.
Absolutely. It's easy to focus on filling roles quickly, especially in manufacturing and engineering, but how do you slow things down just enough to build those relationships during hiring? And for me, I think our team definitely falls victim to this at times, and our HR has to say, "Whoa, slow down," because we've got contracts at different places like Cal Fire at the base, wherever it is, and we've got this just quick turn. But and we'll dive into it even more later about you telling us how to get the right candidates, but how do you slow things down a little bit?
So my motto is hustle slowly.
Okay.
And you're going to get so sick of hearing me say this, but it's really true. So we can fill them a lot faster if we hustle slowly. And I mean, okay, so you tell me, hey, I need someone to start on Monday. We're in a bind. What does that look like? I'm still going to have you slow it down enough to let me get in on site, learn your culture, meet the hiring team. Who is this person working with and what are they doing? Because that's going to save so much time in the long run and your final interviews that it helps us identify exactly who you need to meet with to fill that role. And it may be Monday and it may be a week from Monday, but it's much faster than you're going to if you fill it on your own. So we always hustle slowly and make sure we're on site as often as possible. The other component to that is a lot of times you already know the person you want to hire. You just don't know that you do, but they're in your network. So if people start thinking, like especially hiring managers, you're always recruiting for LSI, right? You're always thinking, who could really elevate my team? Start writing it down and keeping a short list. So I would say most of the positions that we fill, we already know this person, at least 80% of the time. Or the person.
Yeah.
Because we're always investing in the relationships, and where we work in such a niche space, we'll talk to anyone just to get to know them. We want to know the best of the best because people's situations always change.
Yep.
So we're not a post and pray type of company, and most of the good matches never are. So if you have your short list you can go to when you have any opening, then it's going to be a game changer for you.
Interesting. And I watch our hiring managers, and even I've done it where, you guys are, and I say you guys, like my recruiter that's here or my HR, but they're always coming back and asking more and more questions. I'm like, I don't know, just find it. Yeah. They're like, no, the more you can tell me up front, the better of a fit. And once we kind of quit fighting that and did it, I would say it's, solid. I mean, we're getting, killer candidates are narrowed from 40 down to 4, and the 4 we interview are awesome.
Yeah. Well, and if you hustle slowly and you're investing that time up front with your team, it's really going to save you headache in the long run.
Absolutely. What are some of the common mistakes you see companies make when it comes to hiring for long-term success?
They forget that it's their original goal is to hire for long term. So you get your accepted offer and then mentally they move on, but they forget that that's really when their retention truly starts. So they need to invest from day one, even in the period of waiting for the candidate to show up that first day. They need to stay engaged, but also make sure they're ready on that first day. I can't tell you how common it is for companies not to have the computer ordered or the space set up. I mean, just professional courtesy, 101. Make sure they have a place to go. But playing the long game also means you make them as comfortable as possible because that first 30 days is so crucial. One thing our clients are doing, or many of our clients are doing, is setting up like a mentor, almost like a buddy system, call it whatever you want to, when they first come in, that you have your standard training process and procedure, but there's also a friend, right? Somebody that will take them to lunch that first day that they can go to for just general information. Where's the bathroom? Where's the break room? Just things that they may feel stupid asking questions, but they're not. They're like meant to be their advocate and friend on site. That's proving really successful because if you can get them through that first 90 days even, the retention goes way up.
That's a great idea. And I think when we go back a little bit, when you're talking about like the onboarding process, I think so many people do ghost them, right? And when we came on, our HR team was great in saying we want them to have a great experience, even if they don't get the job. So that's communicating to them. That's emailing them. That's like, they get mad. They're like, we're going to take a posting down if you guys don't respond to these candidates within this amount of time, right? And at first we're like, man, okay. But I see it all, right? I see this like full circle now of why they're going to talk about your company, whether you hired them or not. And you want it to be like, oh, I wasn't chosen, but the process was good and they were communicative or whatever.
Well, and there's so much value in your external reputation. So before a candidate's even going into a company, they've already researched you up and down, your company up and down. They know what they're getting into. So they're actually going in more educated on interviews now than you are. So as the hiring manager.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. Yeah, external reputations are huge.
How do you help hiring managers shift from that fill the seat that you just said to finding the right fit?
It's helping them feel the pain point. I mean, if this is a position that they are backfilling every 6 months, I mean, that must be exhausting. And they're a recruiter. They are not there to do their own job. So it's helping them identify like the frequency and then diving into the why. Like, why is this person leaving, every few months, or why is the seat opening up? So if we can put some data behind it of, okay, you have filled this 4 times in the last year, they'll start to see that as a pain point and then shift their thought process to like, okay, maybe we hustle slowly. Let's figure out what the right person is for us. What is our core values? Get back to square one, get the right person on the team, and then it frees them up to do their real job.
How do you find that happy medium? Because I do think the feedback we get is they don't want the candidates don't want a bunch of interviews. But if I'm trying to find that right person, I want to make sure they're going to mesh with that team, that manager, what the executive leadership thinks. So how do I find that happy medium?
So you could combine a couple. So do an initial phone interview type of thing and then have somebody come on site. If the leaders feel like they're a good fit, then do a team. I think
like a panel.
Like a panel interview or a lunch is even better because then you get them off site in a more candid environment to connect with people. So I would actually recommend that over multiple interviews because you will lose them. I mean, 3 is even extreme in this market. So if you go beyond that, candidates disengage pretty quickly.
What does this market look like right now? What are you seeing with, we've heard of layoffs in, IRS and different in the government agencies, DOD or the early retirements. What does it look like? Have you noticed a difference?
I can really speak to engineering and manufacturing specifically. And our market has a very low unemployment rate still. However, companies are taking longer to hire because they want to make sure they are hiring the right person, recognizing the value of headcount, right? They don't want to turn around and have to lay people off again. I think we've learned some hard lessons the last few years.
Absolutely.
So we're seeing the requests from companies coming in that we would have considered 2 jobs like 5 years ago. And just as like a high level example, like a sales and marketing professional, ultimately as your company scales, those are 2 completely different roles, but now they're wanting it under one hat. So there's some fluidity and flexibility with it, as many people as they can just to maximize headcount.
Yep.
So it's getting a little bit interesting in terms of the skills being requested under one job description. It's keeping us a little humble. We'll see what works and what doesn't.
Right.
But that they're just getting more selective for the long game, which is good.
Yeah, I can see that because as we tighten our belts, right, with, possibly losing contracts or whatever that looks like, I've told my team we're going to have to wear, several hats, each of us, that we may not have had to wear in the past, for sure.
Yeah, and the skill, like being fluid and adaptable right now, those skills are more important than they ever have been for that reason. You can't have anybody pretentious and not willing to just roll up the sleeves and do whatever they need to do. It's not working.
Yep. Hiring is only half the story. What's your approach to keeping great talent once you've got them on the team? And maybe let's back this up a little bit too. What does a good onboarding experience look like? That I know that's kind of like the gateway to keeping them as long-term.
Yeah, a good onboarding experience, I think, needs constant refreshing. I think it's something that in the past has been set and kind of forgotten about. But for example, I went into a company that we're working with right now, and we're taking on a high-level engineering position for them. And I was meeting the team. I was asking, what was your onboarding like? And I discovered that one candidate had only been there 90 days, and he was also an engineer. And I was like, well, what would have made this experience much better for you? And he just said if this particular company had a product laid out that he could go mess around with and actually touch, feel, play around with without screwing anything up, he would have learned and onboarded so much faster and better. So now for this new hire that we are looking to fill, they already have this set up and this process set up so they can come in and learn the equipment so much better, faster. Assuming you're a visual learner and hands-on, like most engineers are, it'll expedite that onboarding substantially. So I think just interview your candidates again, right? Like once they've been onboarded, do a 60, 90-day, what could have we done better? What would have helped you? Where did we fail? And be willing to own that. Because nobody's perfect and we're all evolving.
Absolutely. What role does, I already asked that. Dang it. See, I went right into it and I didn't even know.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Wearing 2 hats.
Cut out my
Good
shit.
job.
I'm just kidding. What trends do you see coming that could reshape how companies attract and retain talent?
Doubling down on the culture thing again. I think it's just going to be really honing in on who are you, what's your why, and it doesn't have to be super sexy. You just have to be confident with who you are. So I think it's going to be what the purpose of the company is, but also the environment that you're creating. There's not a right or wrong answer, just being confident in your delivery to potential talent. So they know right away if they're going to fit into this or not. If you're used to working 50 hours a week, own that. This is the environment that we're in. Not everybody is against that. So you want to find your right people.
When you say the why, does it always have to, to me, I always think, I've got to have like some civic duty or something tied to it. Like it's just why, what we do for our clients, why for like in our example as LSI, is that
and it
what
doesn't have to have this big emotional attachment or even big social impact, right? It's just, here's the purpose of our company and here's why it matters that we're around.
Perfect. Okay, I got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite interview question to ask a candidate? Not one you want to but can't.
Right. I always like to know if I'm interviewing for my team on Spectrum, I want to know when is the last time you've advocated for somebody else, either personally or professionally. Because I'm looking for you have enough confidence, right, to elevate someone else and not feel threatened and collaborate with a team. So I really love that question.
That is great. One leadership trait you think is underrated?
Presence. Just simply being present. So you want your leaders to be fully engaged.
Not multitasking. What is
not multitasking, not running errands half the day and coming back and working at midnight when your team is business hours. Just being very predictable in behavior and available when needed. So everybody feels that foundation.
So, and talk about available, in the kind of more leadership roles, because I think as your time stretched, you're meeting with clients, your different divisions. I think that is the detachment that the personnel feel is like they don't have as much access. But what are some things you've seen leadership or you say for them to do, right? I want to feel like I am accessible, although my schedule, I felt I had more flexibility when I worked the mailroom at, Merit Medical than when I had, being here. Yeah, my schedule is not flexible. It's set in weeks in advance. So what would you say to leaders like that?
So I would say block out a window of time. Mondays from 12 to 2, I am at my desk, door is open, find me, this is when I am available and make it a priority.
Okay, that's a great advice. I love that. Best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Create the team you want or deal with what you've got.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And I like that for my recruiting technique.
Yeah.
Or even situational, right? Like create the situation you want or deal with what you've got. Basically, stop complaining and
I feel like that's kind of like quit bitching or, do something about it.
Exactly. Or stop talking.
Yeah. So where can they find more information about Spectrum, about what you do? If they had some positions they'd love you to help recruit for them.
They can reach out to me directly at tina@thespectrumsolution.com, or we're very active on LinkedIn or our website, spectrumrecruitingsolutions.com.
Okay. And any funny secret stories you can tell us on anything, any experiences you've had in recruiting that was wild? You have to name names.
I for sure won't name names, but some interesting things is we've had spouses bring their partners to interviews.
Get out.
Just to have that second, moral, not moral, that's the wrong word. Cut that out. Just to have that second opinion. And how it used to be a lot of, I need my wife's permission to do this, or I need my husband's permission. So
did you allow them in the interview?
So we did, just because we were a little like, what the hell is happening right now?
This is crazy.
This is crazy. Yeah. And then you still deal with some random hygiene issues all the times, even at professional levels. You're like, consider grooming, deodorant. So we prep every single candidate, consider brushing your teeth. It's technical rules don't always require a strong business presence, but you still have to work next to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So we still deal with hygiene issues at every level.
What do you see in the workplace too, right? We were at this such hybrid, even really work at home, during COVID and right after. You've seen this shift of everyone back in the office, especially in government agencies, et cetera. Mm-hmm. What does the landscape look like with the people you're working with?
Where we specialize so much in manufacturing, I think they're already wired to be working on site, right, and they appreciate it. And it gave them a good opportunity to see perhaps the grass isn't always greener working from home, or if they resonated it and absolutely loved it, they can switch careers. It's never too late to pivot. But I think now you definitely have the knowledge of I like it or I don't, or if you're a hybrid, what does your balance look like that works for you? And there's every option under the sun out there now.
And I try to be, like you said, empathetic to that. I want our folks to have a hybrid. I think there's some positions that warrant it and some don't, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you said, manufacturing, or if you're on the floor of how are you, a clean room, there's no options to work at home. But I worked at home kind of pioneered it where I came from before for 17 years. And now I'm when I had to do it last week. We talked about this, and man, I struggled because I was just like, I don't do it anymore. I'm not as disciplined. It's hard, especially if you have, a toddler running around, even if they have a nanny. But it's difficult now to where I don't know anything different. I've only been back doing it for 4 years. So it's interesting to see what others think. And do you guys go into an office, or you?
Nope, we are fully remote. We actually built the company to be fully remote before it was cool, before it was a thing. That was the only thing I had as a benefit for so long.
Yeah.
And now it's not a benefit because almost everybody can do it.
Yeah.
But it does I love working from home, but I have to be careful because I could work for 3 days straight and, I think
that's where I came from, right? Where it was like, you get 10 to 12 hours a day out of me when I worked from home before, right?
Yeah.
Because you're waking up, you don't have the time to get ready or the drive time. And
you just get lost in work and keep going, and you forget that there's dinner to be made and all the things, softball.
Tina, thank you for joining us and reminding us what great teams, that great teams aren't built on paper, but they're built on purpose. So I appreciate it. Your insight is a powerful reminder that hiring isn't just about jobs. It's about the people, and mainly about the people. And when we get that right, the win follows. So appreciate you being on Behind the Win.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Good job.
I'm sweating. That's scary.